Hello, everybody. If you were here for the continuous integration with integration that's continuous to automate a pipeline, you're probably at the wrong session. This is top 5 ways to move DevOps beyond IT. Hi, I'm Mike Wolfe. I'm the mobile modern delivery lead at KPMG. You can actually follow me at GeekPunk because I like my Twitter handle to be as simplistic to my subcultures as humanly possible. So GeekPunk. So to that end, this is the last section of code you will see in this presentation. The funny part, for the record, is I work for KPMG. We are a large international advisory, tax, and audit consultancy. And when I showed this to some of my business colleagues, the literal comment that came back, "I don't get it. Am I supposed to understand what this means?" But this is my joke. It's the last line of code you'll see to dev/null. You guys got it. The lawyer didn't. So what is modern delivery? So modern delivery is kind of a new way of thinking about a bunch of subcategories of things, right? It's about combining agile and DevOps and microservices in a cultural way that it is not an individual technique or approach, but part of an end-to-end ecosystem. Because what we've seen is this. Developers will go and say, you know what, we're going to do agile. Okay, great, let's get a bunch of people certified on Scrum or Safe or less. They go and do that, and the business goes, well, you're not moving any faster. Oh, wait. I know what the problem is. We got to go to the cloud. Great. We go through all the rigmarole to go to the cloud. Yeah, you're not moving any faster. Oh, wait, we have all these monoliths. This is going to solve it. Microservices. Got it. How much is that going to cost? I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure we'll go faster. You go through that, and you didn't move any faster. Because really, all of these components only really fulfill the real value when combined to a holistic approach. You needed the agile combined with the microservices and cloud to actually then go and start to change processes, to change the way the organization works. And so we see kind of agile DevOps, what I've been calling DevSec AI whatever ops, whatever we decide to add opsify to the end to add to that. Automation and tooling. We need that automation and tooling to free up the capability. We need microservices and cloud to be able to work faster. We need to do real product management, not project management, but product management, portfolio management, right? Things that devs and ops don't tend to think about. You need to start doing design thinking, right? We have the business doing design thinking, and we're over here deploying things, but they're not often connected. And it goes down all the way to agile budgeting and vendor management and all the stuff that us as devs and ops people, and myself, I'm a recovering developer, don't tend to think about. All the way up to risk and creating a product or customer-centric perspective. The general piece of this is agile isn't enough. DevOps isn't enough. It's really kind of this broad transformation to get things done. But you're doing this today in product companies. Some really mature, large organizations are doing this. But let's talk about the enterprise for a second. Not this one. Although I would say I've seen almost all of the currently existing space shuttles. This one isn't there anymore. Okay, we're talking about this enterprise. This is the enterprise we're talking about. This is an organizational structure that really has struggled to take on things, right? One filled with change approval boards, one with COEs, governance, rules, lawyers, right? And lots of processes that have established over years and years to make sure that we were stable, to build an institutionalized structure for stability. When I say these words, there's one thing you don't hear me say: change. It was actually built to not change. We spent a lot of time building what we called at the time SOAs, and enterprise service buses, right? Well, because I wanted to change code less. I wanted to establish stability. And I wanted to institutionalize that stability throughout the organization from top to bottom, right? But now, they're being asked to actually work like product companies, right? What used to be the premise of IT was to keep the lights on, keep the servers burning. They're now being asked to just go faster. Like just go faster. I need you to move faster. I need you to be like a product company. But that's a big institutional change, because as they were keeping the lights on, they were doing it by doing this, right? The lights that they kept on was through duct tape and through institutional controls. But we're asking for this systemic change to move faster. But we can't ignore there's a reason why that governance was put in place. There's a reason why they put steps and gates, et cetera, in place to protect the organization. So how can we take that stuff that makes an enterprise, that enables it to have continuity, while at the same time being the agile modern organization we want it to be? So with that, let's talk about some top 5 blockers. So we have done this work across a myriad of different enterprises. So this is a collection of lessons learned, blockers, missteps that we've seen along the way that really kind of summarize up what we think many of the problems are. Everything from things that large video game companies might do that you would think that they're very forward thinking. They have these missteps. Through large financial institutions doing AI are hitting these exact same missteps. So number 5, misunderstanding of language. So language is really important. Like we as engineers tend to overlook this problem. And it's not really just about simple translation of words. An epic is this to me, is this to you, a taxonomy of words. But language is important because of context, right? Not simply that volts means volts, but volts means danger. So one key struggle that we've seen these organizations hitting is what does that mean as importance to a term to an audience? So you take a simple word like an epic. I literally had a multi-hour conversation last week with a customer about an epic. What an epic meant to portfolio and product people versus what an epic meant to developers. And coming to terms that actually the portfolio people were worrying about features. And features roll out as a release. But that release is a contained element that is different than the developers. But they need to have this common language and understanding. Because what the business actually cares about or knows to understand is the outcome. They care about the outcome. But as developers, operations people, we get kind of high in our own supply as to what those terms mean. I like to think about DevOps in the Princess Bride method of terminology. I'll be in a meeting and I'll hear Inigo Montoya in my head going, "You keep using these words. I do not think it means what you think it means," right? One of the greatest benefits of DevOps as a brand is that it's a killer brand. That's why you're seeing design ops. What is design ops? Well, we used to call that designer-developer workflow, right? What is microservices? Well, it's SOA. It's just SOA wasn't a very good brand. So we call it microservices. And it's there's lots more to it. But at the end of the day, that branding really is valuable, right? But the word DevOps I've heard used as a verb, to DevOps it. I've heard it as a noun to mean a group or to send something to DevOps. As a synonym, this is my favorite, of anything to be made or done. DevOps. I saw an RFP go out for from one of my customers that was a DevOps RFP. And when I read it, I was like, oh, you just want development capabilities. Yeah, DevOps. There's a great lack of understanding. Now, how this filters down is that the business doesn't understand the words that are being used. And so expectations aren't clear, values aren't clear. There's a distinct disconnect. And if DevOps as a culture is about breaking down silos, it's about understanding how to communicate to different audiences. So this is just a really quick reference example of a storyboard that we had done to explain to business owners what this means. And it's not about Jenkins, it's not about the pipelines, it's about the activities and the outcomes and the value changes. Now the business can go, oh wait, if I do this, I can have rolling releases and I don't have to have downtime and I don't have to schedule people to be here at certain hours. The outcome value was important to them. And how you translated it was not around Ansible and your pipelines. So number 4, not picking the right metrics that change behavior in the organization. We, in the DevOps culture, are really positively obsessed with metrics and objectives, right? However, it's a matter of picking the right objectives for the right audiences. Does anybody know what an OKR is in this room? Okay, this will be an interesting survey. What about a KPI? What about an SLI? What about an SLO? Okay, these are all different metrics to drive different things. The business cares about an OKR, which is really, I think I'm hearing more and more customers talk about this, of setting their objective and key results, right? I would like to gain more market share. What will a key result of that be? Oh, it would be, as measured by more users on a system. However, what does your site reliability engineer care about? Oh, well, how many throughputs can I get? You know what the business does not care about? How many throughputs they get. They care about the outcome and objective. But at each level, you have to have those objectives and purposes that line up and communicate in the right way. Because if you don't, you're going to get the problem of the frozen middle. Middle level managers who will say that they're doing agile, they say they're doing DevOps. You'll look at their report and everything lights up green. Look, they did a thing. But when you talk to their team, you find out, actually, no. We've got like 3 people over there doing that manual task. But hey, look, we met this deadline, right? All the things light up green because the objectives for them was not motivating that actual change. Similarly, with the objectives is how you report it. Reporting of these things must be much more like a consumer application, right? I get the right information at the right time for the right audience. We're so obsessed and enabled by our tools to push out data metrics that it becomes like noise. And then what you'll end up having in many of our customers, you'll have a manual process that does something like this. Well, I go into the Jira board and I copy out some metrics and I put it in a PowerPoint that then goes to another person to change that PowerPoint and go to another person to make a dashboard out of that PowerPoint to get to the business, right? Because you're not worrying about the objective, you're worrying about your work outcome. It's a matter of kind of enabling dev to have their piece, enabling biz to have their piece as well. And the last piece about the goals that we see as kind of a struggle here is entirely different motivators and having, I'll show my UX background here a bit, to have the empathy to understand of why something is happening. If we're breaking down silos, we have to understand why this motivates the business or why this motivates IT. And so, for example, as devs in IT, we're worrying about, I want to have less tedium, I have new skills, more consistency. Well, the business, we have to admit, is looking at this of, hey, I actually might want to have vendor flexibility so I can shove work to different vendors and have a common pipeline. I might want to insource some of that work. I might, at the end of the day, need to realign resources because I had 500 people doing this, and I only need 300 people doing this, right? Understanding the empathy that drives all of these things to make sure that you're creating objectives on the dev side that actually drives for the business motivators. So this one's a fun one because I'm at a conference called Jenkins World. We are very quick to jump to tools as a solution. And underestimating complexity of integrating those. Don't underestimate the complexity of an enterprise of pulling in new tools. I had a customer at one point who will remain nameless, but he made the comment to me that, hey, I'd like to pull in this new NPM library. Okay, great. How long will it take you to remake it? I'm like, make it from scratch? Yeah. I don't know, 4 days. Okay, well, it's going to take me 4 weeks to get that approved through legal. So you do the 4 days. We get so intertwined with our tools that we underestimate the complexity of, one, bringing them in, getting them approved, and two, integrating them, right? So because this grew out of our dev and ops culture, we're obsessed with our tools. But the other irony is, in a proper ecosystem, right, the tools only have real value when they're integrated, right? I need to be able to go from InVision to, I'll pick one out, GitLab to Jenkins through end-to-end traceability. I need to be able to have all of those pieces integrated and then back to my back-end systems to actually deploy them, or else they don't really provide a lot of value. The other piece is, let's not underestimate the complexity of this, that we believe it solves the problem. For example, just list out my fine list here. If I'm worrying about GitLab, Artifactory, Jira, Bitbucket, Jenkins, CircleCI, CodeShip, CodeBuild, Cloud Build, there are so many builds. Azure DevOps, Selenium, Cucumber, Jasmine, Sauce Labs, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, Kubernetes, Docker, Istio, Helm. I've convinced myself this solves the problem. Because, I mean, just hear me talk them out. I mean, how could it not solve the problem if I've got that many tools, right? When in reality, one of the biggest struggles is getting tool gravity. Raise your hand if you have more than one source code management tool within your ecosystem. Oh wait, I want to do it. Who has CVS still? Okay. Who has more than one continuous integration platform? Oh, that's, well, it is Jenkins World. Again, it's a fair audience. There's a lot of value in tool gravity. We talk about data gravity, but tool gravity, right? A common tool set that everyone uses. And it ends up being a cultural barometer. I was at a customer, and they were using 6 different chat applications. And they were complaining that they couldn't break down the silos. And I said, well, why don't we start with a chat application? If we can all talk on the same platform, maybe we can come to the same terms. It's a bit of a barometer of how you're going to be able to move that forward. Number 2, and this is a weighty one. I'm going to apologize in advance. This is probably one I'm most passionate about, and it's a bit weighty. Ignoring the left when we're shifting left. Do you guys all know what shifting left is as a concept, generally, right? We're shifting the effort and responsibility of quality from dev over to the design and build and plan, right? But the reality is, if you automate the process of delivering a thing, you know what really becomes important? Making the right thing. And in connection, the delivering a thing, highly automatable, extremely automatable, right? You look at it at our floor today and you see tons of tools that are really about the automation of that process. As you shift to left, the design and build, really hard to automate. It's actually process change, it's people change, it's design thinking, it's the knowing you're delivering the right product, all the way up to funding and operating models, the hard people work. And we kind of ignore that, so what ends up happening is, even if you are successful in your DevOps transformation, the business may not be happy, because you just delivered more things, not necessarily what they wanted. And thus, part of this is a wholehearted acceptance of design thinking as part of the process of build, right? Implementing it at the early stages of ideation and continuing on rapid prototyping as part of your end-to-end platform. The other problem is the enterprise loves gates and COEs and boards, right? Part of it is, as I said earlier, to protect. Part of it is a bit of a cultural bit. And really, thus shifting left means taking something like security, and we hear SecOps. I hear SecOps and I hear tooling. I hear automation. What I don't hear is security by design, including cyber and security earlier in the process, including audit and risk as part of your design partners in a full stack team. When you start to go down that line, then you get to, well, where do I sit? For creating full stack teams, the next thing that people don't think about as the complication is, well, what org am I reporting into? Like, this is a fun exercise. Go to a large organization and show them the Spotify model. Do you guys know what the Spotify model is? So, you know, guilds and squads and et cetera, and then map that to an IT organization where it's very much this way, very much project-driven. The moment you start to get to that, then they're like, well, who do I report to? Because I'm not going to finish this effort unless that's my direct reporting, et cetera. It adds to the complexity of it. And then the final thing of this shifting left is, if I'm doing all these things, I've changed my operating model, but I haven't changed where the money comes from, I'm not changing behavior, right? Inherently, there's an incongruence between annual budgets that don't play nice with being agile, right? You're starting to see why this is not just like throw the things in the Jenkins, right? Because if I don't fix all of these things, I'm just getting the build out faster. And so this is the number one item. Is there like a drum roll? Can someone do like a? Oh, geez. It's true. It is an anticlimactic drum roll. I apologize. The number one reason for not being able to move DevOps forward is alignment and stagnation of the process, right? These initiatives really take alignment outside of IT. Now you start to get that up the chain in like managers who understand the importance of this, but if you are going to be doing kind of these tectonic shifts in how the work is done, how the work is paid for, you're really changing that such that you need an executive owner of this. Just out of curiosity in this audience, how many people believe that their executives, say at a C level, understand or align to DevOps? So 2. How many people think have like a VP director level person who understands what they're doing at DevOps? Okay, starting to get there, right? How many people believe that DevOps in their organization today is being pushed by just development operations trying to do less with more? So progressively, right, we need to move out of this, because if we don't, we're never actually going to be able to make the actual changes. Which really takes me to my closing statement, which is really, to be successful at this, it's a broad cultural transformation. It's a broad cultural transformation that no tool is going to solve. It's a broad cultural transformation that unless you adopt these things in concert progressively, you're not going to get beyond IT. We're going to be stuck in doing silos of work that does good work, that progressively improves, but doesn't actually change our lives, doesn't change our customers' lives in a substantial way. Wow, I spoke really fast. So I'll open it up for Q&A. I do have a prize. I have a sticker from the USS Enterprise badge from Star Trek. This has been sitting on my desk for like a month. First person to ask a question gets a sticker, because we're at a DevOps conference and ask, like stickers. Oh, yes!
Thank you.
Yeah, what's your question?
So I think the point you made about things not being organized, like you don't know who you work for, this
Yeah.
comes up a lot, okay? Because no matter how you slice it, it doesn't work.
Right.
You reorg this way, that doesn't work. You reorg this way, it doesn't work. So what's your suggestion?
Yeah, that's a really, so to restate the question with the microphone, that organizational structure is really important, but it seems like any way you slice it, you can't quite get there. I would argue in a large enterprise, part of the reason that comes that way is because it's often not driven by product need. It's all of a sudden segmented by fiefdoms. Well, I've got my reporting structure. My reporting structure has this budget. This budget drives these things. I'll give this person over to you, but I'm not actually making a change. That's why, like, if you do that piece without doing the product part, it kind of gets...
You can't really solve the problem until you're on product.
I would say you can piecemeal it, but without taking a product and customer-centric perspective, you're always just going to be reshuffling the deck chairs. Yeah. Any other questions? I mean, I don't have any other stickers, but.
Your number one statement there.
Yeah.
How do you get upper management, CEOs, CIO? Do you approach the business side first and say, hey, look, this is what we can do, and try to get them to get the IT side on the DevOps operation as far as, implementing, the life cycle of it? I mean, because we struggle with our upper management just wanting to accept that.
Yeah.
Where does it start?
Huh?
Where does it start?
Yeah, I mean,
So.
it's a drive. You almost mentioned it up there. It starts at our company. It has started from the bottom, and we're trying to push it up.
Yeah.
And we can't get the foothold in
Yeah.
our office.
So the question is if getting the alignment is important, where do you even start? So like I come at this as a unique situation. So does anybody know what KPMG is before you walked into this? Did you know it's for tax and audit? Yeah. Okay. Clearly not a tax guy. I pay my taxes. I'm going to say that for the record. I came in through a design and development agency into a large global audit, accounting, and advisory firm. And so the interesting perspective I have is if you don't have a common purpose and goal and alignment and somebody who can translate between the needs of development, needs of operation, and the business justification. So as an example, I had a customer who was looking at microservices as a way to diversify vendor management. The CFO is looking at this of going, well, hey, yeah, I've got all these vendors, I don't know how to manage it. But they kept going back to IT, and IT would go, well, no, this is great. I'm going to split this up into microservices. We're going to have containerization. Based off the containerization, I'm able to do blue-green deployments. The business goes, I have no idea what any of that means, right? And so I guess my way to answer to that is you kind of have to create a team that's purpose-built to bring alignment between that, to go, okay, great, here's the objectives and goals. Here's the things I have to do to achieve that goal, but bringing them together in a common way where it's not about the fiefdoms and it's not about proving why you have to do it as much as bringing a collective team to accomplish it. And that does mean evangelizing and educating upstream, and then also educating downstream of the implications on dev. Well, this is why this matters, getting to that empathy.
So how long does that process take? Because I've been working on that for 2 years.
Miles do vary.
I'll keep throwing them.
Yeah.
Doesn't it have to do with like the metrics that you're reporting up to senior leadership? Because I mean, we always you really resonated when you said about the metrics, right? Because we're gonna be the same problem in my company. They're just more jaded, they get jaded over and over and over. You got all new IT believe this, that.
Yeah, and the metrics that you're reporting end up being noise.
Money and resources,
They want
right?
great.
So pick do a proof of concept that shows the value proposition.
Right. Well, and because they're not using the same thing, you're going to have product managers and product owners and business owners who don't ever go into Jira. I talked to somebody here who was one of the other sponsors, and I said, how many of your product managers are actually in Jira? Right? Because that's a bit of a bellwether for me. It's well, how are you doing portfolio management in Jira? Or it goes to the devs and they do their thing. But yeah, how do you report it and communicate the value of that reporting as opposed to noise? I find that most of the tool outputs, tool vendors, create a lot of noise because no one's sat down and just thought about it, so it's a matter of what's being pumped out instead of meeting with the business. What's your objective? What's your goals? Great, let me give you a dashboard that shows that goals because they're inherently going to tie to the work you're doing. It's just different outputs. This is like Phil Donahue. This is great. Old guy. Any other questions?
Do you have any suggestions of particular metrics that you found work?
That's a great question, Mark. So let me introduce you to one of my colleagues, Mark Shank. The question was, do you see any metrics, impacts of metrics in particular that stand out? You're saying to the business that shows value to the business.
I mean, so obviously, in DevOps, you get a lot of different metrics that you tie to different components of the tool chain and speed up. I think from a business perspective, one big one that probably doesn't get talked about enough is the speed to integration with acquisitions. So you see people doing acquisitions, and when they actually have a good microservices and containerization, they have a good automation tool chain, they're able to pick and choose and be able to bring in components and integrate with acquisitions at faster speed, lower cost, particularly if they're going after tech startup acquisitions that have modern architectures to begin with. And so I think that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. And then, I mean, obviously on the business side, you see them just the ability to push to production. I mean, it's the most obvious one that everybody talks about, but it's a big one. I mean, if you can push to production multiple times a day, then you have reached a real mature state.
Time to story is one I've heard resonate a lot. So okay, great, I've got a new feature. How fast is it out? Because now all of a sudden to do that, I've got to get through all these other steps. So how can I go from a user story to user story live?
Okay, so then directly, how do you change your change board?
Yeah, so this is a fun one. I think that the myth here is that what we're trying to do with DevOps is in some way circumventing controls. And I would sit there and go, as a company full of auditors, we ourselves are starting to look at automation and AI as a method for the future of audit. And how do you do that? Well, I automate the auditing of the controls. I have a test suite that runs through and says, does this pass the controls? That test suite is designed by risk and audit, right? And go, yeah, this is it. And then you don't audit the output, you audit the test. Is the test still matching our controls? Is this what should be done? That's a kind of level of conversation where it's you have to do that audit, security, design first element because they have to be involved in doing that. And then you go, great, does my series of tests satisfy the purpose of this board? And then we can start to decompose it. Anybody else? Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you guys would like to win a Pixel book, come over to our booth. We're raffling off a Pixel book, which, for the record, runs Docker really awesomely. It's really fun. And secondly, I'm hiring. So come talk to us. Thank you guys for listening.